The valley lay beneath a blanket of fog, so thick it seemed almost alive, curling and twisting around jagged rocks and scrub bushes, swallowing sound and light alike. The first hints of dawn struggled through the mist, casting a muted gray glow over the terrain. The U.S. Navy SEAL team moved with practiced precision, boots muffled against the damp earth, rifles cradled at ready, eyes scanning the obscured horizon. Every breath hung visibly in the chill morning air, and every heartbeat sounded impossibly loud inside their helmets. Silence, they knew, was not peace, it was warning. Commander Michael Grant led the unit, his face tense beneath the rim of his helmet. He had traversed countless hostile environments, but something about this valley unsettled him. Too quiet, too still, too wrong. He raised a gloved hand, signaling the men to halt. The fog seemed to thicken as though obeying some unseen will, curling around their legs, muting even the faintest sound. A leaf fell somewhere ahead, sounding like a gunshot in the eerie stillness. Then came the voice, calm and clear over the coms. A woman's voice, low and measured, cutting through the static. Movement, 2,000 meters. Enemy setting positions. Mortar in place. Grant's eyes narrowed. The SEALs froze mid-step, rifles instinctively raised, scanning through the dense gray. None of them recognized the voice. None of them were expecting it. And yet, every instinct in the room screamed that it was accurate, professional, deadly. "Where the hell is she?" whispered Petty Officer Daniels, the youngest on the team, barely 22. His hand trembled slightly over his rifle. Grant's jaw tightened. "Doesn't matter. She sees them. That's all that matters. Stay low." The SEALs sank into the earth, pressing themselves flat against the muddy ground. Visibility was near zero. Only the faint shapes of distant rocks and scrub punctuated the swirling fog. Every second stretched, tense and heavy, like the valley itself was holding its breath. From somewhere above, high on the ridge, a faint shadow shifted. It moved fluidly, purposefully, like a predator observing prey. Hannah Cole, Lieutenant, Marine Sniper. Unknown to the SEALs on this mission, yet precisely why they were alive. She was perched on a jagged rock outcrop miles away, wrapped in a ghillie suit that seemed to grow from the fog itself. Her M201, an enhanced sniper rifle, rested on its bipod, cold steel glinting faintly in the dim light. Every breath she took was slow, deliberate, measured. Every heartbeat matched the rhythm of the wind and the valley. She had been watching the enemy movements for hours, calculating, waiting. And now, the moment had come. Cole's reputation preceded her among those few who knew her. Steady hands, unmatched patience, eyes like a hawk, and nerves carved from ice. But even so, the men she had trained with, and sometimes been mocked by, didn't truly know the depth of her skill. Some called her a ghost. Others dismissed her as lucky. Today, she would prove herself beyond question. The lives of these SEALs depended on it. The distant rustle of movement finally reached the teens' ears. Enemy combatants were positioning mortar, preparing to rain fire down into the valley. They were methodical, confident, unaware of the invisible predator scanning them from the ridge. Cole's finger brushed the trigger, her scope lined with faint shadows barely perceptible in the fog. She calculated the wind, the angle, the bullet drop over the massive distance. Her breath slowed. She exhaled, heart steady. A shot cracked like thunder, cutting through the mist. A figure fell, collapsing into the earth. The other insurgents froze, glancing nervously in every direction. Another shot followed, precise, silent in its intent, devastating in effect. Overcomes, Cole's calm voice reassured the SEALs. Targets decreasing. Mortar teams neutralized. Move carefully. Grant's eyes scanned the fog in disbelief. She's out there alone? He muttered. The SEALs had been trained for the worst, but nothing prepared them for a sniper operating entirely independently, unseen yet controlling the battlefield with deadly precision. The fog swirled around Cole, hiding her presence. She moved silently, repositioning, always unseen, every motion calculated, every shot deliberate. The SEALs below could hear the faint echo of her gunfire and the barely audible comms updates, but they could not see her. And that was precisely how she wanted it. She had learned long ago that heroism demanded invisibility. Recognition could compromise efficiency. The Valley would remember her deeds, even if the report never mentioned her name. Petty Officer Daniels broke the silence. I've never heard anything like this. She's unreal. Grant didn't answer immediately. He focused on the ridge line, scanning through night vision optics, trying to catch a glimpse of this phantom sniper. Nothing. Only the fog and shadows. And yet, every instinct told him she was there, watching, protecting, waiting. Every pulse, every breath of the team below depended on her keen eye and deadly aim. Hours seemed to stretch into minutes as the fog thickened and thinned intermittently, each burst of wind carrying the scent of wet earth and danger. The enemy continued their preparations, unaware that a single figure, hidden by mist and skill, could end their lives before they even realized the threat. Cole adjusted her scope once again, checking distance, wind, and elevation. Another shot, and another, and the enemy's confidence shattered. Chaos spread among the insurgents like wildfire, their formation collapsing as they struggled to understand the invisible hand dismantling their plans. Cole remained steady, unharmed, focused. Her presence was like a force of nature, unseen, yet undeniable. The SEALs advanced cautiously, trusting her guidance, their movements synchronized with the rhythm of her voice over the radio. Each instruction precise, concise, and calculated. Left flank clear. Advance 20 meters. Hold position. Covering fire. As dawn broke further, sunlight began to filter through the mist, revealing the shattered outlines of enemy positions. Bodies lay where she had chosen, shadows frozen in defeat. Cole exhaled slowly, lowering her rifle for just a moment. No satisfaction, no celebration, only focus. There were more threats ahead, more calculations to make. But for now, the team below had survived because of her, though they would never see her. They would only know the whisper in the fog had saved them. And as the SEALs regrouped, cautiously scanning the misty valley, Grant muttered under his breath, "Who the hell is she?" Somewhere high above, Cole watched silently. A ghost in the fog, and moved again, already disappearing into the swirling gray. Ready for the next threat, the next shot, the next life she might have to protect. Her job was never done, and she didn't need anyone to know. The fog rolled on, concealing her as always. And in its embrace, Lieutenant Hannah Cole became legend before anyone even laid eyes on her. Lieutenant Hannah Cole had never sought recognition. Her life, since joining the Marine Corps, had been a study in discipline, precision, and quiet determination. Unlike many of her peers, she understood that the true measure of a sniper was not in trophies or accolades, but in the lives preserved through unseen, calculated action. Those who trained with her quickly realized that every motion, every word, every breath she took was purposeful. Some respected it immediately. Others doubted her ability, labeling her an anomaly in a man's world. The whispers followed her. Ghost, lucky shot, impossible. She ignored them all. Cole's journey began long before the mountains of Afghanistan. She grew up in a small town in Montana, where the horizon seemed endless and quiet was a companion. Her father, a hunter and former Army Ranger, taught her the value of patience. He would take her into the woods at dawn, the air crisp, frost glistening on pine needles. "Listen first," he'd say. "Then move. Wait. One shot. Make it count." Those lessons became the foundation of everything she would later achieve. While other children chased fleeting thrills, Cole honed focus. She studied trajectories, wind patterns, and ballistics manuals like a sacred text. The rifle became an extension of herself, not a tool of violence, but a means of protection. When she enlisted, the Marine Corps recognized her aptitude immediately. She was small in stature, but commanding in presence, her calm determination intimidating even the toughest recruits. Her instructors marveled at her ability to remain steady in the chaos of simulated battle. While other snipers struggled to maintain composure under pressure, Cole's hands never trembled, her breathing never faltered. It was as though the world slowed when she peered through her scope. The young Marine quietly amassed a record that even the most seasoned sharpshooters envied, though she received little fanfare. Success for Cole was silent, invisible. Her skills did not go unnoticed for long. During advanced sniper training, she faced ridicule from male counterparts, who underestimated her purely because of her gender. "She's lucky," one grumbled after she outshot him by several hundred meters. No way she did that twice in a row. Cole neither argued nor defended herself. She simply continued. Every practice round, every calculation, every sleepless night spent studying the environment, ballistics, and enemy tactics only sharpened her edge. By the time she graduated top of her class, the skepticism had vanished, replaced by quiet awe. Even those who once mocked her now deferred in silence when she took her position on the line. The SEALs she temporarily joined in Afghanistan had initially been wary. They were a brotherhood hardened by years of combat, accustomed to trust forged through shared danger. Introducing a Marine sniper, and a woman at that, into their tight-knit group raised eyebrows. Cole noticed the glances, the subtle doubts, yet she paid them no mind. Instead, she let her actions speak. During joint exercises, she consistently proved herself, spotting threats others missed, calculating distances with precision, neutralizing simulated targets at ranges that would challenge most seasoned marksmen. Slowly, respect replaced skepticism. Her preparation extended beyond skill with a rifle. She studied human behavior, enemy tactics, and survival strategies with relentless intensity. The fog-shrouded ridges of Afghanistan were not foreign to her mind. She had pored over satellite imagery, terrain maps, and historical patterns of engagement. Every potential angle of attack, every escape route, every possible line of sight had been catalogued and memorized. Her mind was a living, breathing weapon, capable of anticipating enemy movement before it occurred. Yet it was not training alone that forged her into the ghost who now haunted the valley. It was her mindset, an unwavering discipline honed by years of solitude and self-imposed trials. She had spent nights in freezing conditions, crawling through mud and snow, her body aching, her senses heightened, her focus absolute. In those moments, the world had been reduced to target, wind, and survival. She had become attuned to the subtle whisper of the wind, the faintest shadow in the corner of her vision, the almost imperceptible ripple of movement in the grass. Every moment of preparation had led to this, the ability to step unseen into the fog of war and become the difference between life and death. When she arrived in Afghanistan, Cole understood the stakes immediately. The SEALs she would assist were skilled, experienced, and disciplined, yet human. Even the most elite operators were vulnerable when caught in an exposed valley with enemy mortar ready to rain destruction. She assessed the terrain quickly, memorizing ridges, depressions, and shadowed corridors. Her eyes scanned for possible sniper positions, natural cover, and wind patterns. Her mind calculated trajectories hundreds of meters away with uncanny accuracy. She was aware of the lives depending on her presence, and it made her resolve absolute. As dawn broke over the valley, Cole moved into position. Every step was deliberate, silent, precise. The fog wrapped around her, providing camouflage, but also obscuring the subtle hazards of the terrain. Loose rocks, hidden crevices, and unexpected slopes required constant vigilance. Her rifle rested against her shoulder, its bipod digging into the frozen earth for stability. She adjusted her scope and measured the distance to targets below, noting wind speed and direction with professional detachment. Hours passed with her in position, unseen, unheard, but acutely aware of the unfolding battle. She watched enemy movements like a predator studying its prey. Her calculations were exact. Angles of fire, bullet drop, wind compensation, and target behavior all integrated into her decision-making. A single miscalculation could end in disaster for the SEALs or herself. Yet her hands remained steady, her breathing measured. She had been trained for this moment, and every trial, every sleepless night, every hour in the field had prepared her to act with flawless precision. By the time she first opened fire, Cole had already neutralized several key enemy combatants with silent efficiency. The SEALs below could only hear the faint echo of distant shots and the voice issuing calm updates over the radio. They did not see her, the ghost in the fog, and that was precisely how she wanted it. Recognition was irrelevant. The mission, survival, and precision were all that mattered. Cole's presence that morning was not the result of luck. It was the culmination of a lifetime of preparation, discipline, and skill. Her calm demeanor in the face of danger, her ability to read terrain, wind, and human behavior, and her unwavering focus on mission objectives transformed her into something more than a sniper. She had become the embodiment of stealth, precision, and the quiet heroism that so often goes unnoticed. And as the SEALs moved cautiously through the valley, their survival ensured by her unseen hand, Cole adjusted her scope, prepared her next shot, and disappeared further into the fog. She was, as always, both everywhere and nowhere, a shadow, a whisper, a ghost. The valley would remember her actions, though few would ever know her name. Lieutenant Hannah Cole had become legend, and the dawn of this battle was only the beginning of the story that would follow. The fog clung to the valley like a living shroud, thick and unyielding, muffling sound and distorting distance. The SEAL team crept forward, every step deliberate, rifles raised, senses stretched to their limit. Commander Michael Grant led the men with unwavering discipline, but his eyes betrayed his tension. Even with decades of combat experience, nothing in his training could prepare him for what was about to unfold. The unseen sniper who had just alerted them to the enemy's presence. Targets at 2,000 meters, came the calm, measured voice of Lieutenant Hannah Cole over the coms. No emotion, no hesitation, just precision. Grant had already learned to trust her implicitly, even without seeing her. The SEALs froze, pressing into the ground as the enemy became partially visible through intermittent breaks in the fog. Insurgents were methodically positioning mortar, oblivious to the hunter watching from the ridge above. The valley below was a treacherous theater. Rocks and uneven terrain offered both cover and danger. The SEALs moved in careful intervals, relying entirely on Cole's observations to navigate unseen threats. Every sound, a snapped twig, a muffled shout, a metallic clang, set hearts racing. Cole's voice cut through the tension. Mortar team, South Ridge, stationary. Wind 5 knots east. Wait for my mark. She peered through her scope, eyes narrowing as the crosshairs aligned with the first target. The enemy soldier was adjusting a mortar tube, unaware of the sniper calculating the exact moment to strike. Cole's finger rested lightly on the trigger. Time seemed to slow, the valley compressed into a single point of focus, the enemy. She exhaled slowly, releasing her breath only as she gently squeezed the trigger. The first shot echoed faintly, and the target collapsed. A ripple of confusion spread through the enemy lines, a mixture of fear and disbelief. Another shot followed, then another. Cole's voice guided the SEALs below, advancing left flank. Keep low. Covering fire applied. Her calm tone contrasted with the chaos unfolding beneath her, her words grounding the team amidst the tension. Down below, Petty Officer Daniels swallowed hard, his eyes wide behind his goggles. Who is she? He whispered. Every shot felt impossibly distant, yet perfectly lethal. The SEALs were alive because of her. Every instinct screamed gratitude and disbelief. They were in the midst of a lethal operation, and the ghostly sniper above had become their lifeline. The enemy attempted to regroup, moving cautiously now, their mortar abandoned, fear etched into their movements. Cole observed through her scope, tracking every shadow, calculating trajectory, wind, bullet drop, and elevation with mathematical precision. Each decision, each shot, was a measure of life and death. One wrong calculation, and the SEALs below could be decimated. Yet her hands remained steady, her breathing rhythmic, her mind unyielding. Suddenly, movement from the east ridge caught her attention. A glint of metal, the reflection of a sniper's scope. Someone was hunting her now. Her heart rate did not rise. Years of training had conditioned her to anticipate threats, even before they were visible. She repositioned her body slowly, sliding across the frost-laden rock without disturbing it. Every motion was deliberate, measured, almost imperceptible. The enemy sniper, unaware of her presence, continued scanning for the source of the sudden, precise gunfire. Cole's voice returned over the radio, calm and unshaken. Enemy sniper, East Ridge. Do not advance until neutralized. SEALs hold positions. I have eyes on them. Below, the SEALs froze, relying entirely on her guidance. None of them had seen the opposing sniper yet, but they trusted Cole completely. She had become more than a teammate. She was a guardian angel, invisible and untouchable. As the enemy shifted position, Cole took careful aim. Distance, 2,000 meters. Wind 5 knots east. Bullet drop calculated. Breath controlled. She squeezed the trigger, watching through the scope. The round struck with deadly accuracy, and the sniper collapsed into the fog. Silence returned, heavy and almost sacred, though the SEALs knew it was only temporary. Cole had just removed the most immediate threat to their survival. Grant allowed himself a silent nod, the tension in his shoulders loosening slightly. Move, he whispered. The SEALs advanced, synchronized with her updates, moving from cover to cover, each step guided by the unseen predator on the ridge. Cole's eyes scanned continuously, her mind mapping terrain, enemy positions, and potential hazards. She was everywhere at once, calculating outcomes before events had even occurred. Her presence transformed the chaos below into a controlled, manageable battlefield. Hours passed as the SEALs pressed forward, Cole covering their movement with unmatched precision. Every enemy fighter who attempted to expose themselves found themselves neutralized before they could react. Each shot was a blend of science and instinct, a careful orchestration of physics, biology, and battlefield experience. Below, the SEALs could hear the faint crack of distant gunfire, punctuated by her calm instructions. Advance 10 meters. Left flank secure. Hold and watch. The fog, once oppressive, now seemed like an ally, cloaking her movements and concealing the SEALs as they moved. Cole shifted position slowly, crawling through mud and uneven terrain to avoid detection, all while keeping sightlines on enemy positions. Every moment demanded vigilance. Every second could mean life or death. Her body ached, but her mind remained razor-sharp, focused, calm, ready. By mid-morning, the initial engagement had shifted. Enemy forces were retreating, disoriented and demoralized by the sudden, unseen threat. The SEALs had successfully maneuvered deeper into the valley, alive and aware that their survival had been owed entirely to a sniper they could neither see nor fully comprehend. Cole's voice, steady as ever, relayed updates and warnings, orchestrating the battlefield with quiet authority. Petty Officer Daniels finally muttered aloud, awestruck, "I don't even think she's human." His fellow SEALs didn't reply. They didn't need to. Each of them felt it in the pit of their stomachs. The woman guiding them through the fog was extraordinary, unmatched in skill, and utterly lethal. She had become the shadow controlling life and death, a force whose existence would forever alter the way they perceived warfare. As the SEALs regrouped briefly behind a rock outcrop, Cole surveyed the valley from above, hidden within the swirling mist. She adjusted her scope, scanning for any remaining threats, her gloved fingers steady despite hours of continuous observation and calculated fire. Her training, her patience, her focus, all had converged into this precise, deadly orchestration. And she was not done. There were still enemies beyond the ridge, still lives depending on her unseen precision. The fog remained her ally, wrapping the valley in a blanket of concealment. Every move she made was deliberate, silent, invisible. She had become more than a sniper. She was the unseen guardian of the SEALs below. Her presence would never be officially recognized. Her name would not appear in the after-action reports. Yet she had changed the course of this engagement entirely, saving lives, dismantling enemy formations, and asserting her quiet dominance over a battlefield shrouded in uncertainty. And as the team advanced cautiously under her unseen protection, Cole adjusted her scope once more, calculating trajectories, tracking movements, and preparing for the next phase of the mission. She was the ghost in the fog, the shadow controlling the battlefield from a distance, and the one truth remained undeniable. Without her, the SEALs below would have been lost. The valley remained shrouded in a dense, almost suffocating fog, a swirling curtain of gray that swallowed sound, light, and distance. Lieutenant Hannah Cole lay prone on the ridge, her ghillie suit blending seamlessly with moss, rocks, and dew-covered foliage. Each breath she took was slow, controlled, deliberate. Her M201, an enhanced sniper rifle, rested firmly on its bipod, cold steel steady against the frozen earth. She had already neutralized several enemy combatants and mortar, but now a new threat emerged, one trained to match her own deadly precision. A faint glint in the fog betrayed him, a counter-sniper. He had positioned himself on an eastern ridge, scanning the mist, trying to locate the source of the sudden and devastating gunfire. Cole noticed it immediately, the metallic glint of his scope reflecting faint morning light. Her heart rate did not accelerate. Years of training had conditioned her to anticipate danger before it materialized. She adjusted her position subtly, shifting her body across the uneven terrain without disturbing a single twig or rock. The first round whizzed past her ear, cutting through the fog with lethal intent. She remained motionless, her gloved fingers lightly touching the trigger. Her mind catalogued everything: wind speed, humidity, distance, and trajectory. A miscalculation could mean death, not only for her but for the SEALs below, whose survival still depended entirely on her unseen precision. Cole whispered into her comms, calm and steady. Counter-sniper located. Adjusting position. SEALs, hold your ground. The team below froze instinctively, their trust in her absolute. They could not see her, but every instinct screamed that she was controlling the battlefield. The enemy sniper continued scanning, unaware that the hunter was already tracking him with unparalleled accuracy. For hours, the duel of shadows continued. Cole and the counter-sniper moved silently across the terrain, each repositioning to gain advantage, neither revealing their location. Every shot they fired had to be calculated, precise, and final. She crawled slowly along a rocky ledge, the damp fog clinging to her ghillie suit, each movement deliberate. Every muscle in her body was taut, coiled like a spring. She became almost invisible, a phantom ghosting through the mist. The enemy sniper fired again. The round ripped a groove into the earth mere inches from her rifle. Cole did not flinch. Instead, she exhaled slowly, refocusing, recalculating. Her mind became a machine of precision. She measured the counter-sniper's position through subtle signs, the slight movement of branches, the faint glimmer of light reflecting off metal, even the way fog shifted around him. Every variable was accounted for. 2,012 meters, she murmured, almost to herself. Wind 5 knots east. Bullet drop calculated. Crosshairs aligned. Her finger eased the trigger. The shot rang out, cutting the mist with terrifying precision. Through the scope, she saw the enemy sniper collapse, rifle clattering against the rocks. Silence followed, heavy and absolute, broken only by the faint rustle of the fog and distant SEAL movement below. Yet Cole did not relax. The valley was treacherous, unpredictable, and alive with danger. Enemy combatants who remained were desperate, searching blindly for the unseen force that had decimated their positions. Her training had taught her that vigilance was survival. Every instinct screamed caution, every nerve alert. She repositioned once more, sliding carefully across wet rocks and frost, maintaining line of sight while minimizing exposure. Below, the SEALs advanced cautiously, following her instructions through combs. They moved like phantoms themselves, shadows slipping between rocks, holding their breath at every sudden noise. Cole covered their movement, picking off anyone who dared expose themselves, her rifle an extension of her mind. Every shot, every decision was deliberate, precise, and deadly. The enemy was now fractured, disoriented, and demoralized. Hours stretched into a tense continuum. Cole maintained her position, ever aware of the fog's double nature, concealment for her, but also a veil of uncertainty that could hide threats. She adjusted her scope repeatedly, calculated each angle, and prepared for every contingency. Even the smallest miscalculation could have catastrophic consequences. But her years of preparation and experience allowed her to remain unshakable, calm, and unflinching. The counter-sniper was gone, neutralized, but Cole knew better than to assume the threat was over. In Afghanistan, danger could emerge from any angle, above, below, or behind. Her training taught her to remain vigilant, anticipating movement before it occurred, blending observation, calculation, and instinct into a single lethal rhythm. She became part of the fog, part of the ridge, almost mythic in her invisibility. Time became fluid. Cole's senses attuned to the slightest anomaly, a ripple in the mist, a shadow shifting unnaturally, the subtle change in sound when a distant footstep hit damp earth. She tracked enemy movements with unwavering focus, neutralizing threats as needed while constantly updating the SEALs below. Her calm voice guided them, anchoring them in the chaos, even as every fiber of her being remained alert to potential counterattacks. By midday, the valley had been secured, the initial threats neutralized, and the SEALs alive, entirely because of her precision and vigilance. Cole remained in position, hidden and invisible, yet fully aware that the danger was not yet over. She checked her rifle, adjusted her position once more, and surveyed the terrain, calculating potential escape routes, sniper lines, and enemy positions. Every detail mattered. Every second was a test of skill and endurance. Her body ached from hours of immobility, the chill seeping through her layers, but her focus never wavered. She had become more than a sniper. She was the embodiment of patience, calculation, and lethal precision. The SEALs below would never see her. They would never know her exact position, her sacrifices, or the razor-sharp decisions that had kept them alive. That was how it was meant to be. Recognition was irrelevant. Survival was paramount. And as the fog thickened again, curling around rocks and trees like a living shroud, Cole adjusted her scope, calculated her next move, and became the ghost of the valley, a deadly, invisible force orchestrating life and death with unerring precision. The duel was over, but the battle was far from done. The SEALs moved under her watchful eye, the valley alive with tension, and Cole remained a shadow, unseen, yet undeniably present, a master of the fog and the battlefield, guiding the team forward with a lethal, silent grace. The morning had stretched into a long, tense haze, the fog hanging over the valley like a living entity, swallowing sound and distance alike. Lieutenant Hannah Cole remained perched atop her ridge, a phantom hidden within the swirling gray, her M2010 enhanced sniper rifle steady against the uneven rocks. The SEALs below advanced cautiously, relying entirely on her unseen presence and precise instructions. Each movement they made was a measured dance, executed with military precision, yet none of them could see the ghost who was guiding their steps through the treacherous landscape. Cole's body was cold and stiff from hours of immobility. Frost had begun to cling to her ghillie suit, and every muscle ached, but she ignored the discomfort. Focus was her only currency, and the lives of the SEALs depended on it. Her eyes scanned through the scope with unerring precision, calculating distances, measuring wind drift, and tracking the subtle shifts in the enemy's position. The insurgents were no longer organized. Panic and confusion rippled through their ranks as they attempted to regroup after the initial strikes. Then she saw him. The counter-sniper had been neutralized, but another threat emerged. A mortar team leader, skilled and cautious, had taken cover near a ridge 2,012 meters away. He was scanning the valley with methodical patience, attempting to identify the source of the unexpected losses. Every instinct Cole had honed over years of training screamed that this man could endanger the SEALs below in seconds, if left unchecked. "Distance confirmed," she murmured under her breath. 2,012 meters. Wind 5 knots east. Her hands were steady, her breathing controlled. The calculations had been memorized, repeated, and rehearsed countless times in training. Every variable, elevation, air density, temperature, wind, spin drift, had been accounted for. It was a long shot, almost impossibly long, but she had done this before in practice and, more importantly, in training under far harsher conditions. Cole exhaled slowly, letting the fog and the valley's rhythm guide her pulse. Her gloved fingers adjusted the scope's knobs with surgical precision. The enemy's movements became a slow dance in her mind, every twitch a variable, every shadow a potential threat. She had only one opportunity. The shot would have to be perfect. One miscalculation and the SEALs' entire operation could be jeopardized. Below, the SEALs were unaware of the threat's precise nature. They continued their advance, trusting the calm voice guiding them, unaware of the exact distance or the life or death stakes being played out above. Cole knew that if she hesitated, the insurgent would spot the team leader and fire, possibly with catastrophic consequences. Timing was everything. She steadied her body, squeezing the trigger gently as the crosshairs centered on the target. The shot broke the silence of the fog, cutting through the valley like a scalpel. Cole watched through the scope as the bullet traced its invisible arc across the air, accounting for every subtle environmental factor. The enemy soldier collapsed, rifle clattering against the rocks. Silence followed, heavy and profound. For a brief moment, it seemed as if the entire valley exhaled collectively, relieved that death had struck at a distance, and not at their front lines. Cole did not relax. Even as the target fell, She scanned the surrounding ridges for movement, anticipating the enemy's next course of action. Other insurgents scrambled, desperately seeking cover or attempting to retaliate. Each was eliminated with precision shots, the fog occasionally concealing the final impact of her rifle's rounds. Below, the SEALs advanced, unaware of the ghost orchestrating the battle from above. Each shot she took was a note in a deadly symphony that ensured the survival of her allies. A single graze of a bullet caught her shoulder, a reminder that she was not invincible. Pain flared sharply, but she ignored it. Focus was absolute. Her body was trained to endure far worse. She adjusted her position slightly, bleeding but unseen, invisible within the folds of the fog. Each second was precious. Her patience, her skill, and her endurance were all that stood between life and death for the SEALs below. Her mind became hyper-aware, every detail of the valley imprinted in her consciousness. A broken branch here, a shadow moving there, the faintest reflection of light off metal. All were data points in her calculations. She moved only when necessary, conserving energy, maximizing stealth. Her shots were deliberate, methodical, and unerring. The enemy began to realize they were being hunted by something more than a sniper, a ghost, impossible to locate, impossibly precise. Hours passed, the fog slowly lifting, revealing the aftermath of her unseen work. The valley was littered with incapacitated threats, strategically neutralized to minimize risk to the SEALs. The team below could finally breathe, advancing steadily as Cole provided updates over the radio. Each word she spoke was calm, measured, and authoritative. She did not celebrate her success, nor did she need to. The survival of her comrades was her reward. Petty Officer Daniels, still awestruck, muttered to his squad, "She's unreal. That shot. 2,012 meters. She just saved us all." The men could only nod, eyes wide, aware that they had survived against impossible odds. Cole's voice guided them forward, but her presence remained invisible, her figure a shadow within the swirling mist. As the last mortar team fell, Cole paused, scanning the horizon. Her body was aching, her shoulder throbbing from the graze, yet her mind remained sharp. She catalogued positions, calculated wind, and plotted potential movements of any remaining threats. Her professionalism, patience, and skill were unparalleled. She had become the ultimate guardian in a hostile environment, unseen and unheralded, yet undeniably decisive. Cole's calm voice over the comms carried authority and reassurance. Threat neutralized. Valley secure for movement. SEALs proceed with caution. Eyes open for stragglers. Below, the SEALs continued forward, fully aware that they owed their lives to the unseen sniper who had dominated the battlefield from above. The shot that changed everything was not just a demonstration of technical mastery. It was a testament to her training, her discipline, and her relentless focus. In that moment, Cole was not just a Marine sniper. She was a ghost of precision, a force of nature, and the line between survival and disaster for her teammates. The fog rolled on, concealing her movements as she prepared for any further threats. She cleaned her rifle meticulously, checking every component, adjusting scope and bipod, scanning for movement in all directions. Her work was far from over. This valley had proven treacherous, unpredictable, and full of danger. Yet Cole remained unfazed, an unshakable presence in the swirling gray, the ghostly guardian of the SEALs. And though no one on the ground could see her, or fully comprehend the scope of her actions, Lieutenant Hannah Cole had just made history, silently, invisibly, and decisively. The lives saved, the threats eliminated, and the enemy neutralized were all the proof she needed. Recognition was unnecessary. Survival was everything. And in the fog of war, that was all that mattered. The valley, Once a silent and foreboding expanse of fog and shadow was now a fractured battlefield. Enemy positions lay in ruin, disrupted by Lieutenant Hannah Cole's relentless, unseen precision. Bodies of insurgents sprawled across the rocks and scrub, while mortar that had threatened the SEALs' advance now lay dismantled or abandoned. The fog hung low but thinly over the terrain, curling around the uneven ground, a ghostly veil that concealed both danger and opportunity. Cole's eyes, scanning through the scope, registered every detail, every fallen figure, every twitch of movement, every subtle shift in the mist. Left flank clear. Right ridge secure, she reported in a calm, authoritative tone over the radio. The SEALs below advanced cautiously, following her voice like a lifeline through the treacherous valley. Every step they took was guided, every decision influenced by the ghost perched high above. They could not see her, yet they trusted her implicitly. Her presence transformed the battlefield from chaos into a manageable, precise theater of survival. The enemy, disoriented and demoralized, began to retreat. Fear rippled through their ranks as they realized that an unseen force had been dismantling their positions with inhuman efficiency. Cole's eyes narrowed, tracking their movement through the thickening fog. Each insurgent attempting to escape was catalogued, measured, and neutralized if necessary. Even at a distance of over 2,000 meters, her rifle remained a deadly extension of her will. Every shot was precise, every calculation flawless. Petty Officer Daniels, moving cautiously behind cover, whispered to his team, She's everywhere. How does one person do this?" The others did not reply. Words felt inadequate. Every man in that valley was aware that survival was owed entirely to the ghost guiding them. Cole's presence was invisible, yet undeniably felt. She had become the silent arbiter of life and death, orchestrating the flow of the battle with unmatched skill. Hours passed with the SEALs advancing, the enemy's resistance crumbling under the weight of their unseen predator. Cole remained motionless for long stretches, conserving energy and maximizing concealment. Every subtle movement was calculated. A shift to a new vantage point, a minute adjustment of the rifle's bipod, a realignment of her scope for environmental factors. She was aware of the toll on her body, stiff muscles, a shoulder still throbbing from a graze, but her focus never wavered. Pain was irrelevant. Survival and precision were paramount. She guided the SEALs from vantage point to vantage point, covering their maneuvers with deadly accuracy. One insurgent, attempting to flank the left ridge, never made it past her scope. Another, crouched behind a boulder, was neutralized before he could fire. The enemy's morale collapsed as if the fog itself had become a predator, hunting them silently, lethally. Cole's calculations were perfect. Each trajectory accounted for wind, distance, elevation, and bullet spin. The battlefield had become her chessboard, and she moved pieces with unparalleled skill. The SEAL commander, Michael Grant, finally allowed himself a quiet exhale. "Keep moving," he whispered, almost to himself. The team had survived the initial bombardment, the mortar, and the insurgents' counterattacks, all because of the unseen sniper above. Cole's instructions continued over the radio, calm, methodical, and unwavering. Each command synchronized with the team's movements, transforming the valley from a lethal trap into a corridor of calculated progression. Cole noticed the enemy attempting to regroup near a rocky outcrop on the northern slope. She adjusted her scope and observed the faint movement of rifles and improvised cover. She calculated the trajectory, accounted for wind gusts, and applied her training with precision. Another series of shots eliminated the remaining threats without exposing her position. The insurgents scattered, confusion and fear evident in their movements. The SEALs advanced further, shielded by her invisible vigilance. Hours of continuous observation and engagement took their toll on Cole. Frost clung to her clothing. Her muscles ached, and exhaustion pressed against the edges of her focus. Yet her mind remained razor-sharp. Every calculation, every shot, every observation was executed flawlessly. She had become a living embodiment of patience, discipline, and lethal precision. And though the SEALs below did not see her, they felt the results: survival, coordination, and victory in a valley that had been designed to kill. The enemy's retreat became complete by late afternoon. Scattered groups fled the valley, some surrendering, others disappearing into the distant hills. Cole remained vigilant, scanning every shadow, every ridge, ensuring that no hidden threats could strike at the SEAL's rear. She adjusted her rifle one last time for the day, checking its mechanisms and scope, cleaning debris from the barrel, and preparing for any further contingencies. Her work was meticulous, precise, and unrelenting. "Valley secure," she finally reported, her voice calm but tinged with exhaustion. The SEALs regrouped behind cover, scanning the fog for any lingering threats. Relief washed over them, though tempered by the awareness of how close they had come to disaster. Petty Officer Daniels shook his head in disbelief. "I don't think anyone's ever done what she just did," he murmured. The SEALs shared glances, all silently acknowledging the invisible sniper whose deadly hand had guided them through the storm of the fog-filled valley. Cole allowed herself a brief pause. Her breathing slowed, her body relaxing slightly, though only just. She surveyed the valley one final time, confirming that all threats had been neutralized. Every insurgent neutralized, every mortar dismantled, every life saved, all thanks to precision, patience, and unwavering vigilance. The SEALs below were alive because of her, though they had never seen her, never fully understood the scope of her presence. As the fog began to lift in the late afternoon light, revealing the damaged landscape, Cole moved silently from her position, checking for potential sniper lines and environmental hazards. Her mind cataloged everything, for future operations, for contingencies, for survival. Each detail mattered. Each calculation could mean life or death. She was meticulous, methodical, and relentless. The SEALs continued their advance, protected by the ghost in the fog. Every step forward, every maneuver executed flawlessly, owed its success to her invisible hand. Cole remained unseen, a shadow among shadows, yet fully present in the life-or-death reality of the battlefield. Recognition was unnecessary. Survival was the only measure of her success. And as the last insurgents disappeared into the distant hills, the valley finally quieted. Cole, the unseen guardian, adjusted her rifle one final time, cleaning it meticulously, and prepared to descend from her position. The fog rolled across the valley like a tide, concealing her departure. The SEALs would remember her presence only in their awe and gratitude, never knowing her name or witnessing the sacrifices she had made. Lieutenant Hannah Cole, ghost of the fog, had orchestrated the retreat of the enemy, safeguarded the SEALs' advance, and transformed chaos into control. She remained invisible, yet undeniable, a living testament to skill, patience, and unwavering professionalism. The battlefield was hers to command, and she had done so with lethal precision. In the fading light, the valley lay in quiet ruin, and Cole watched silently, ensuring no further threats remained. The shadows had retreated, the enemy scattered, and the SEALs advanced safely, all under her unseen hand. Her legend, though unspoken, grew quietly with every breath, every shot, and every life saved in the fog. The valley had finally fallen silent. The thick fog that had shrouded the battlefield for hours slowly lifted, revealing jagged rocks, broken mortar, and the scattered remnants of a desperate enemy force. Lieutenant Hannah Cole remained hidden, surveying the landscape from her ridge as the SEAL team below regrouped. Their movements were cautious, but methodical, guided by the calm, unerring instructions that had flowed over the comms all morning. Commander Michael Grant finally allowed himself to exhale. His team had survived, advancing safely through a valley that had been carefully designed by the enemy to kill. He scanned the terrain, noting the wreckage of mortar and the abandoned enemy positions. Each step of the SEAL's advance had been orchestrated by an unseen hand, precise and flawless. His mind replayed the voice over the radio, calm, deliberate, and authoritative. Every instruction had been accurate, timely, and life-saving. He looked at Petty Officer Daniels, who was still wide-eyed and tense. "Do you know who is guiding us?" Grant asked, his voice quiet but urgent. Daniels shook his head. "I don't. She? She's unreal. She saved every one of us." Grant nodded, eyes scanning the ridges, but there was no sign of her. Above them, Cole remained in position, hidden within the folds of the fog. She had become a ghost of the valley, invisible yet omnipresent. Her rifle rested against the rocks, her scope cleaned and recalibrated, eyes still scanning for any lingering threats. She had taken every precaution, calculated every shot, and neutralized every danger without exposing herself to unnecessary risk. She had saved lives, ensured the success of the mission, and yet remained unseen, uncelebrated, and unacknowledged. Hours later, the SEALs gathered in a temporary command post at the edge of the valley, the adrenaline of the operation still coursing through their veins. Grant debriefed the team with meticulous care, reviewing movements, neutralized targets, and enemy retreat patterns. Yet all the while, he could not shake the feeling that the most critical factor in their survival had been invisible, a ghost whose skill had far surpassed anything he had ever witnessed. "Every move we made," Grant said quietly, "was guided by someone who never appeared on the ground. Every shot we didn't see, every threat eliminated before it reached us. We owe that to her." The team nodded, silent, the weight of their gratitude evident in their expressions. Petty Officer Daniels muttered, almost to himself, "I've never seen anything like it. She's a legend." Cole, meanwhile, had repositioned herself further along the ridge, continuing to observe. Her mind catalogued every movement, every environmental detail, and every remaining threat. She knew the valley could conceal dangers still unknown, and she remained vigilant. Fatigue pressed against her body, but discipline and focus held her steady. Her presence was a paradox. Everywhere yet nowhere, decisive yet unseen, lethal yet uncelebrated. As the SEALs moved to regroup and consolidate, Grant's curiosity grew. He reviewed the Kunz logs, tracing every instruction, every update. The voice had been calm, deliberate, and precise, a mark of extraordinary skill. And then he found the name in the log, Lieutenant Hannah Cole. The reality of what she had accomplished began to crystallize in his mind. He thought back to the long-range shots, the neutralization of the enemy sniper, the careful orchestration of their advance through the fog, and the protection she had provided during every step. Grant realized that the success of the mission and the survival of his team had been entirely dependent on this unseen Marine sniper. The truth was undeniable. Lieutenant Hannah Cole was extraordinary. Grant summoned the team to his side. "Listen," he said, voice low but intense. "We've been protected today by someone whose skill is beyond anything we've ever seen. She kept us alive in a valley designed to kill. Every decision, every shot, every instruction, flawless. That is the work of a legend. Remember this name, Lieutenant Hannah Cole." The SEALs nodded solemnly, understanding the weight of his words. Meanwhile, Cole remained above, observing silently. She did not seek recognition. She had never needed it. The lives she had protected, the threats she had neutralized, and the successful advance of the SEALs were proof enough of her skill. Her satisfaction was internal, quiet, and unspoken. She cleaned her rifle methodically, checking each component with care, knowing that future missions would demand the same precision patience, and vigilance. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the valley, Grant finally allowed himself to voice what had been building in his mind all day. "I've seen a lot of snipers in my time," he admitted to Daniels and the other team members. "Some are good, some are exceptional. But what we witnessed today, unheard of. She's the finest sniper I've ever seen. Period. End of discussion." The team remained silent, absorbing the enormity of the compliment and the reality of their survival. Cole, perched high on the ridge, watched as the SEALs consolidated and prepared to move out. She felt no pride, only calm and focus. Every instinct told her that there would be more battles, more threats, more calculations required. The battlefield demanded vigilance, discipline, and the ability to act decisively while remaining unseen. She had given everything she had that day, and yet she knew her work was never truly finished. Night fell over the valley, and Cole remained in her position long after the SEALs had moved to safer ground. The fog had lifted almost entirely, revealing the extent of the damage and the chaos she had navigated silently. She cataloged each enemy movement, each survivor, and each potential threat, ensuring that no detail would be overlooked. The mission was a success, but her vigilance remained absolute. The legend of Lieutenant Hannah Cole was not written in newspapers, celebrated in ceremonies, or recorded in formal reports. It existed in the gratitude of the men whose lives she had saved, in the awe of her peers, and in the quiet confidence she carried with her. She had become a ghost of precision, a master of patience, and a guardian unseen, but undeniably present. As the team camped for the night, Grant made a decision. When reports were filed, when debriefs were written, and when the story of the valley reached higher command, he would ensure that one fact was unmistakable. The mission had been saved by Lieutenant Hannah Cole. Her name would enter their operational history not because she sought recognition, but because the truth demanded it. And somewhere high above the valley, Cole watched silently, her rifle cleaned, her mind sharp, and her body poised for the next mission. She did not seek accolades or glory. She sought only precision, discipline, and the ability to protect those who could not protect themselves. The SEALs would move forward, alive and victorious, and she would remain their unseen guardian, a ghost in the mist, a legend in silence. The night air was still, but it carried the memory of her actions, the echo of shots fired, and the invisible presence that had guided the SEALs to safety. In the valley below, men whispered her name with awe. Above, Cole watched, patient, vigilant, and ready. The battlefield had tested her, and she had emerged not only unscathed, but triumphant, a ghost who had forever changed the course of that fight. Lieutenant Hannah Cole, unseen, unheralded, and unstoppable, had written her legend in the fog, in silence, and in lives preserved. Recognition was quiet, victory absolute, and her vigilance unbroken. The valley had fallen into a fragile calm. The remnants of the battle lay scattered like a silent testimony to the day's chaos. Abandoned mortar, fractured rocks, and the distant echoes of the retreating enemy. Lieutenant Hannah Cole remained high on the ridge, her eyes scanning the horizon one last time, cataloging every detail. Every shadow, every ridge, every subtle movement of the wind was stored in her mind for future operations. The fog, now a thin veil in the fading sunlight, revealed the scars of combat, but could not conceal her presence from her own vigilant gaze. The SEAL team had regrouped, their movements deliberate, cautious, yet confident. Petty Officer Daniels and his squad were already speaking in hushed tones about the ghostly sniper who had protected them from unseen threats. They could not see her, yet her presence had been a lifeline. Every instruction, every calculated shot, every moment of silent guidance had ensured their survival. The awe in their voices was palpable. Cole allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction, though not pride. Satisfaction was fleeting. Duty demanded vigilance. She adjusted her rifle, cleaning the barrel and bipod with meticulous care. Her hands were stiff and cold, muscles sore from hours of immobility, but her focus remained sharp. Each motion was deliberate, precise, a reflection of the discipline that had carried her through countless missions and battles. Commander Michael Grant approached her ridge cautiously, his movements silent. He had watched the battlefield, noted the precision, and understood the full measure of her actions. Cole did not turn. She did not need to. Grant spoke softly, almost reverently. "Lieutenant Cole," he began, "what you did today. I've seen a lot in my career. But you changed the course of this entire operation. We owe you everything." Cole finally lowered her rifle, eyes meeting Grant's. She nodded slightly, a small, controlled acknowledgement. Words were unnecessary. The truth of her actions was evident in the lives preserved below, the enemy neutralized, and the successful advance of the SEALs. Recognition, she had learned long ago, was a luxury of others. Her satisfaction came from precision, protection, and the knowledge that she had fulfilled her duty flawlessly. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the valley floor. Cole finally began her descent from the ridge, careful, methodical, invisible. The SEALs watched silently, a mix of awe and gratitude etched into their expressions. Each step she took was deliberate, maintaining awareness of the environment and potential threats. She moved like a shadow across the landscape, unseen, yet undeniably present in the minds and hearts of those she had protected. As she walked through the valley, Cole reflected on the day's events. Every calculation, every shot, every moment of patience had been a test of skill and endurance. The long-range kills, the counter-sniper duel, the orchestration of the SEALs' advance, all required not just precision, but the ability to remain calm under pressure. She had survived the fog, the enemy, and the relentless tension of combat through discipline, patience, and focus. Her thoughts turned to the SEALs below. Each life saved was a quiet victory, unseen by the broader world, but infinitely valuable. She had become more than a sniper. She was a guardian, invisible yet essential, a force of protection whose presence ensured that those on the ground could live to see another day. That was her reward, her measure of success. Recognition would come in whispers, in awe, in gratitude, never in ceremony or fanfare, yet enough to anchor her in purpose. The valley stretched out before her, vast and scarred, yet still alive with the hum of nature reclaiming the battlefield. Cole observed the distant hills, noting potential lines of enemy approach, calculating future scenarios in the quiet aftermath. Even as the battle ended, her vigilance did not. The battlefield demanded anticipation, observation, and preparation. Every shadow could hide a threat. Every sound could signal danger. She had learned long ago that a moment's lapse could be fatal. She paused at the edge of the valley, glancing back toward the ridge where the SEALs had moved forward. Commander Grant's figure was visible among the shadows, his gaze fixed upward as if searching for the ghostly sniper who had ensured his team's survival. Cole's expression remained neutral, unreadable. She had no desire for acknowledgement, no need for applause. The impact of her actions was enough. Lives had been saved. The mission had succeeded. That was all that mattered. Cole began to move away, silently, the valley's natural contours masking her path. Her body ached, exhaustion pressing against her focus, but her mind remained sharp. Every step was calculated, each movement precise. She had become part of the terrain, a shadow among shadows, a ghost in the mist. The SEALs below could only sense her presence in the results of her actions, never in her form. As night fell, the valley was transformed once more. Darkness replaced the fog, concealing scars and shadows alike. Cole's thoughts were introspective now, reflecting on the day, the battle, and the role she had played. She had demonstrated skill unmatched, patience unwavering, and precision beyond ordinary comprehension. And yet, she remained unseen, uncelebrated, a silent guardian who existed not for recognition, but for the preservation of life. Her movements carried her beyond the battlefield, toward safety and regrouping points for extraction. The SEALs would carry the story forward, quietly, acknowledging her role in whispered awe and private respect. Grant would ensure her actions were recognized at least within the operational command, a rare but deserved acknowledgement. Yet Cole herself would not seek glory. That was never her purpose. As she walked through the valley one last time, the fading sunlight casting golden streaks across jagged rocks and uneven terrain, Cole allowed herself a small measure of reflection. Every shot fired, every life saved, and every threat neutralized had been a testament to skill, patience, and determination. She had become a legend in silence, a ghost whose presence ensured survival and success in impossible circumstances. The wind carried whispers of the day's battle through the valley. Cole listened briefly, attuned to the subtle movements of the environment. She cataloged, memorized, and prepared. Tomorrow would bring new missions, new challenges, and new calculations. She was a sniper, a protector, a ghost in the mist, and a master of her craft. Recognition was fleeting. Precision, vigilance, and protection were eternal. Finally, she paused on a ridge overlooking the valley, glancing one last time at the battlefield below. The SEALs were moving toward their extraction points, safe for now. The enemy had been neutralized, the retreat complete. The fog had lifted, but her legend would linger in whispers, awe, and quiet gratitude. Lieutenant Hannah Cole, unseen and unheralded, had become a ghost of the valley, a silent guardian, a master of precision, and a hero defined not by accolades, but by lives preserved and battles won. And with that, she melted into the shadows, her presence fading like the last traces of mist, leaving the valley and the men she had protected forever changed. The story of her skill, patience, and unwavering vigilance would endure in memory, in respect, and in the silent acknowledgement of those who had survived, forever carrying the legacy of the ghost in the fog.